a whole bunch of different issues that are important to the county. And with the election of Jimmy Paulding down in District 4, we have a chance to change the board majority and actually start to get stuff done. You know, the issues that are in front of us, you know well, be they homelessness, our water supply, the cost of housing, obvious to everybody, I think, who lives in this county. All of these issues affect our quality of life, and they affect our economy. And as such, they, in the end, affect your ability to have a successful business as a real estate broker. I'm sure we'll get some questions on the details of this, but I'm looking forward, again, to digging in. We've got work going on all three of those and many more. We're really excited to have voted on Tuesday to approve the project to restore the Cayucas Vets Hall. It's going to make a tremendous difference in the economic life of Cayucas. So my opponent aligns with the old board majority. I'm the guy with the experience, the knowledge, the understanding of county government, and the relationships and the fiscal responsibility to get stuff done. I look forward to continuing to do that next year and beyond.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Jones.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I am Bruce Jones, candidate for District 2 Supervisor. I'm not a career politician. I'm a retired surgeon. However, I have experience that makes it especially important to this group. I paid my way through college and medical school doing construction carpentry. I do understand about the construction and real estate business. I served more than 3 years, 2 years as the chairman of the Templeton Area Advisory Group, a group that's primary function, it's an elected group, that the primary function is reviewing land use applications. In that capacity, I found many problems with the way we process land use in our county. The biggest problem is the time it takes and the necessity often to hire a highly costly agent to get your project through. We need to be faster, better, and cheaper. Also, I am concerned about the water issues, and the coastal waters issues could largely be improved by gradually turning Diablo Canyon facility into a large-scale desalination facility. It turns out that according to the MIT Stanford study, you can produce a cubic meter of water, 264 gallons, about what a family that's not being that careful about water use would use in a day for less than $1. If you put it in acre feet, it would cost less, about $1,000 per acre foot to produce water that could be used immediately for home use. I got lots of things I'd like to talk about, ask your questions, and I'll be here to answer. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And now we'll go to the mayoral candidates for the city of Morro Bay, and we'll start with John Heading.
Thank you, Jocelyn, and thank you folks for the invitation. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is John Heading. A quick background. I have practiced clinical pharmacy for about 15, 20 years. Have a doctorate in clinical pharmacy, and then went back and got an MBA in healthcare administration. Have large organizational operational experience. I was a hospital CEO, COO for about 20 years in the Central Valley, not the Central Coast, unfortunately, but ran large organizations with a large number of folks. So I think I understand the fiscal challenges with complex organizations like cities and their management. When I retired from that, I just couldn't quit. So we came and opened up 2 retail pharmacies, one in Cambria and a brand new one in Morro Bay. Finally retired in 2019 from all of that stuff. But in the midst of everything, when I first moved to Morro Bay, I was concerned initially about the financial strain and constraints with regard to the community. and decided to run for council. I was elected initially in 2014, served as a city councilman for 4 years, and then was elected first as mayor in 2018 and reelected in 2020. I'm running again, obviously, now. The issues we're facing in Morro Bay are not very different, I think, than a lot of cities. One is financial sustainability, especially in the side of the massive pension liabilities that we in all cities are really facing. And we've developed plans to address that too. We have just completed the first phase of our new water reclamation facility, which will go online in about 4 weeks. The second phase will allow for reclamation. We'll be able to make our own water out of our secondary treated water through indirect potable reuse, reclaiming 60 to 80% of water from actual sewage produced by the plant. And then thirdly, there are a number of infrastructure needs in the community, not the least of which is the harbor, which has a tremendous amount of capital needs. One of our major initiatives important to you is housing. It's one of our 4 major goals, the development of affordable housing units, if that's possible, but certainly one of the major issues that we're facing as a community and that all communities across the county are facing. And so happy to be here and answer any questions today, and appreciate, again, the opportunity to be before you today. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And now Carla.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn, and members of the board. I appreciate you having us here and recognize a lot of the names and faces here. I am Carla Wixom, and I am running for Morro Bay Mayor. I have been in Morro Bay for 43 years and own a small business, a restaurant that I've had for 35 years. I served on city council from 2008 to 2012, and the last 10 years I've stepped out of the politics and just been involved in local service clubs and organizations, youth programs and things like that. Staying with my hand in the other side of it. Stepping back in just as we're at so many crossroads right now, like many communities and the other speakers have shared, with pension costs, concerns with inflation and how it'll affect our economy when our main income is tourism. Renewable energy issues that are facing our community with offshore wind and battery storage facility, which are all very hot topic button issues around town, and how Morro Bay fits into that. How do the residents have a voice in it, and you know, where are we in that process as far as economics, safety, and all the other concerns that go with a community and how it affects our community as far as our quality of life. So as many of the others have shared the same issues, you know, we have infrastructure issues to deal with and concerns with funding to pay for all those streets and sewer pipes and water pipes and connections to things, and a beautiful state-of-the-art new water reclamation facility, but we have to know how we're going to pay for it. How are we going to maintain this over the long period of time? And we can have a lot of low interest or no interest loans, but it's still passed on to the ratepayers. We have a lot of housing projects coming before us right now, 2 or 3 large developments proposed. And so how is that compatible to our neighborhoods? How does the infrastructure handle that? And when we talk about upscaling these parcels to do multi family homes from 10 parcels to potentially, 10 units to potentially, hundreds, how does that fit into the community, and how does that fit into any affordable housing options for our communities that all of us are facing? So thank you.
Thank you, Carla. So now we're going to go to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand on Zoom. You can go to the bottom of your screen there and use the raise hand feature under reactions with a little smiley face and the plus sign. And I see that Mr. Cribb has his hand up. So John, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Please let us know who it's for or if it's for all 4 candidates.
Thank you. I'm going to open a can of worms here. Sorry. I'd like to address this question to Dr. Heading and Ms. Wixom. I want to talk about the subject of vacation rental permits, short-term rental permits in Morro Bay. A position was taken by our association when the recent decision was made to reduce the number of allowed permits in the city to a number lower than the existing permits. We had a presentation from Mayor Heading at the time and the city administrator, and our understanding was that there were no problems police-wise or complaint-wise with short-term rentals that were managed professionally in the city. And my question is, what is your position on this issue? And I realize it's a very controversial issue. And why was a better solution not to require professional management for short-term rentals rather than reduce the number allowed to lower than existed and affecting property values significantly with that decision?
Mayor Heading, I'll have you start that off.
Sure. Thanks, John. I appreciate the question. The city did pass a new STR ordinance. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember when, but maybe just a little over a year ago, limiting number of STRs, non-commercial in residential areas to 175. The majority of those were already, for the most part, professionally managed. So there was no significant discussion about a requirement for actually requiring professional management, because we built a lot of what I'll call rules and regulations into the policy, which included increasing our code enforcement to specifically bring on another half TE code enforcement officer to specifically respond to any issues associated with STRs. Actually, to date, the complaints are minimal. We don't see or continue to see issues with large numbers of complaints or problems. It appears that they're well managed within the city right now. I think that there's still a number of people that would like to see them go away completely, and others that would like to see the cap removed and have, you know, an unlimited number. But, you know, the issue I think the main issue that the council struggled with was not destroying the integrity of the community by having a city that had a huge or large percentage of homes that were owned by individuals that were out of town and or professionally utilized as vacation rentals to a significant extent that would destroy, quote unquote, the local economy. And that was something that I think ended us up with that cap of 175 that we ended up with our STR ordinance. Thanks.
Carla, I'll let you also answer.
Thank you. You know, a lot of what Mayor Heading just shared is pretty much the consensus of the community that I hear right now. I think that right now the Planning Commission and the city are looking at ordinance and zoning changes with our general plan, and there's a discussion to have height changes in our commercial area, which would allow for third story, and being in the commercial area would allow for those to potentially be short-term rentals, maybe adjusting a little bit out of some of the residential areas. We have 10,000 residents. Pismo has 14, 15,000 residents. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. They have, I believe, a cap of 100. Arroyo Grande has a cap of around 90 short-term rentals, and they have 2-3 times the population we have. Los Osos has a smaller number, so 175 is a lot for a 10,000 population community. I think that most of the concerns I hear is the quality of life in the neighborhoods and how those short-term rentals affect that. So recognizing the desire for investment to be returned on people's homes, we also don't want to lose our sense of community. So I think that that's where we're trying to find the balance, and 175 for us is a lot. It really is. So I hope that we look at it more into our commercial areas and less into our residential right now.
Thank you, Carla. And then next, we're going to go take a question to the supervisor candidates for District 2. Bruce Coons asked in the chat, for the two Bruces, what are your thoughts on getting the 21-year moratorium lifted in Cambria, ultimately opening the water wait list for 5 or more will serve letters per year? As we know, water is directly tied to housing and housing development and capacity. So I will let Bruce Gibson answer that first.
Well, I would love to see the day that Cambria gets out from under its water moratorium and is able to build houses, build out that wait list of 660 some homes. That decision to lift the moratorium and present will serve letters in whatever quantity, however, rests solely with the Cambria Community Services District. They put the moratorium in place based on certain findings. They're the ones that are, they're a sovereign board on the matter of water supply. They're the ones that are going to have to lift it. There's one big elephant in the room, and that's the Coastal Commission, because until and unless that decision to issue more will serve letters is very thoroughly detailed as to its sustainability, Coastal Commission is not going to approve land use projects. And virtually every land use project, every house that's proposed to be built in Cambria is appealable to the Coastal Commission. We're already in a tussle. The way we get through this is to be partners. And I have worked for years with the CCSD to help them through the process of getting their supplemental water supply approved and granted a permanent coastal development permit. I continue to help facilitate conversations with our planning department staff and the Coastal Commission staff so that all the necessary analysis is done. And believe me, it's an extensive effort that is going to allow them to demonstrate the water supply that they need to construct the housing. And again, that decision rests with the Coastal Commission. So that's a hallmark of my work as a county supervisor, is to partner, whether it's with a community services district like Cambria or the one in Los Osos, or a city like Atascadero or the city of San Luis or the city of Morro Bay. Mayor Heading can speak to the work that I did as they started to develop their wastewater plant, coming as it did shortly after the Los Osos wastewater project. So my knowledge, my experience, my relationships, I think are key to navigating these very complex regulatory landscapes. And I continue to be there for the community of Cambria to get to that point where more housing can be built. I will just add, we are going to see 33 units of affordable housing come forward near the middle school, thanks to people's self-help housing and work that a number of us did to get that one approved by the Coastal Commission under a specific exemption for affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. And Bruce Jones, you want to answer that question as well?
Sure. I think it's correct that the service district has a word on whether or not we can issue more water units. However, we have the capacity to have a large amount of new water at a cost we can afford. I mentioned that a few minutes ago, that according to the MIT Stanford study of Diablo Canyon, if we were to use that facility as a base load facility for electricity, and when the wind's blowing and the sun's shining, you use the facility for desal of water, we could produce an acre foot of water for about $1,000. That's a very doable price. It turns out to be about $1 per housing unit per day. I think that there's enough pipelines available that we can easily shuttle water up and down the coast with a large scale desal operation. This Diablo Canyon, if we got to the point where wind and solar and other green sources were good enough and reliable enough that we didn't need Diablo Canyon as electrical generation, we could actually produce this water at a lower price, and that's what their study showed. I think that the solution to Cambria's problems with water units is water. and we have to come up with more water. And right now, the solution of desal looks like the best choice, particularly when it can be done that cheaply.
Thank you. Any other raised hands, questions from the group before I go back to the chat?
Steve Del Martini has it. You see that, Jocelyn?
Oh, I didn't know if it was still up from the last. There we go. Oh yeah, I see it now. Steve, go ahead.
Hi, this is for both Bruce candidates. We're always talking about housing, affordable housing, adding housing, and we all know that the problems may stem from infrastructure to many other processing times. My question is there a conversation with either one of you regarding how to staff the planning and building department in the county to some degree that processing can actually start to move forward? I understand there's been a new, there's a preference order now. I don't know if you've talked about signing bonuses, but do either one of you have any comments towards getting the county staffed appropriately to help process? Because if we don't have process, we don't have housing. Thank you.
And I'll let Bruce Jones start this time with an answer for that question.
Thank you. This is an issue that I care deeply about. Clearly, our process is not working, and clearly there are other places where it works well. I believe that if we streamline our process, and I'm willing and happy to work with Trevor Keefe to accomplish that, we will be able to keep long-term ethical planners. I think we have a problem with turnover because it's frustrating to work there. Certainly, more pay will help, and we need to do that. But we also need to create an environment that makes planners want to stay, and streamlining the process will do just that. We spend too many hours reviewing simple projects. For instance, I'm known to say this before, and probably some of you have heard this. I believe that our planning department needs to have housing plans for a variety of square footages, 1,200, 1,400, 1,600, some less, some more than that, that if you choose these plans, then the process will be vastly streamlined so that we have more affordable market homes. Thank you.
So when we did, this is where an understanding of county government makes a difference, and you'll see a clear difference between Mr. Jones and myself. Just a few minutes ago, he suggested that there are plenty of pipelines to move desalinated water in and out of Cambria, where in fact there are 0 pipelines connecting Cambria to the rest of the world, as many of you know. He probably didn't check our budget action when we approved our current fiscal year budget, the 22-23 budget. In June, Supervisor Ortiz-Legg and I came forward with a decision, a proposal to add 4 full-time equivalents specifically to the building department, because where we're really finding the huge bottleneck is in getting plans checked. And that's a technical thing. Compliance with the building code, as you know, is key, and we just need to get the throughput up. So against the recommendation of our county budget office, we said, hey, for $65,000, because these positions will be offset by fees, we can put 4 new people in, and that'll start breaking up the logjam. In fact, we've done that. Hiring has started. We're also seeing things like new software that's finally getting integrated into our system, actually making a difference in the throughput. It's way too long to get a permit or a building plans checked through the department. We're aware of the problem and we're working on it. Similarly, just day before yesterday, board acted on the next 3-year contract with our main employees union that does give suitable raises, got overwhelmingly ratified by that union. Very important to recruiting and retaining the best staff, because we're asking more and more of our staff as we can't grow government fast enough to grow with the needs. That's a longstanding problem. And finally, Mr. Jones probably is not aware, although I've brought this up in a number of forums we've done before, that we actually we had plans for accessory dwelling units pre-approved over the counter, a variety of styles. Those were approved, and I was excited to see that early in my career. I think we approved them in 2008. Then came the Great Recession. So they didn't get used. They got out of date as the building code changed. So right now the county's working with a couple of our cities to get those back on the table. And that's going to happen within the next month or so, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, any other raised hands? Let's go to Morro Bay. Sean Sure said thoughts on tiny homes in the county area. I think he's referring to accessory dwelling units. I think the county has already established their ADU policy, as has Morro Bay. So I think the real question here is how we'll start with Morro Bay. What are your ideas on creating more housing capacity? We have a housing crisis in the state. We have very limited capacity. Home prices are really high, as are interest rates, and they're going up. So let's start with Carla on ideas about increasing housing capacity.
Well, that is a challenge with the interest rates going up. You know, just recently, as you all know, since this is your line of business, the state's handed down all of the changes to allow the units, the accessory dwellings and the lot splits. So garage conversions, all those things. For us, I feel like a lot of times our greatest hampering is the permitting process here. Everybody seems to get hung up. It's been a complaint I've heard for years with our building department. And so working towards trying to streamline some of those processes to get these projects through, to allow these conversions, these changes, I think really is for us, for me, one of the key things I see is what is holding up the problem. It's been a, supply chain problem. So I know a lot of contractors I talk to that are trying to work on changing use of projects for secondary dwellings, accessory dwellings. I've had a problem with just material cost, increasing the building cost, and just the whole trickle down effect. So hopefully as that starts to level out some, and I hear that some of the prices are starting to come down on lumber and things, we'll see more willingness for them to invest in the secondary units. And I am hopeful that if I'm put into office, I can work with the rest of council and staff to try and improve our permitting process so we can make this happen a little better.
Thank you. John Heading?
Yes, thanks for the question. Expected, by the way. Housing is a national problem, but especially a problem here. So we do have ADU over-the-counter plans that are available through Morro Bay, and we're trying to obviously get the word out about those to those folks interested in developing that. In addition to that, we have limited opportunities for growth because of the fact that we don't have a lot of land in Morro Bay that's buildable. However, we have just passed a new general plan, local coastal plan that went through the Coastal Commission that has opened the way for the development and approval of a new zoning code that will help the issue tremendously. That will actually come to council in October. And I think that's one of the key issues that needs to be addressed in the city. And that is a zoning code that allows for greater density, et cetera. We have at our last council meeting just approved rezoning or upzoning for 2 areas of town out by our wastewater treatment facility. Most people are not aware of, but one is just to the north of that. That was originally planned for 12 McMansions, over 10 years ago. And the council basically voted to change the zoning to allow for a greater density. And we're now looking at potential submission of a project that will be between 40 and 60 units on that about 4+ acre parcel that will include some mandated affordable units. And in addition to that, hopefully will bring to us kind of a mixed project, including apartments and homes that would be available at a more affordable rate. To the south of that, our wastewater treatment facility is a 45-acre parcel that was also, there is no plan yet for development of that, but we did approve the zoning change that would allow for, again, a greater density building, and that developer will be bringing plans forward to us soon to be able to look at that as a potential parcel. We have approved a 30-unit partnership with SLO for a 30-unit, again, affordable housing project off of Atascadero Road. That is under construction. That is one of the very affordable projects for low-income folks that will be available to the community. We've also convened, lastly, a group including a couple of planning commissioners, 2 members from the city council, representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, and also a couple of business representatives to look at all properties within the city that might be amenable to the development of affordable housing. And so even though we do have limited numbers of areas, one example would be the old middle school in Morro Bay that is owned right now by the school district. We think there's opportunity there to have a very large project, mixed use, that could potentially accommodate a large number of folks. That's just one example, but that group is tasked with really identifying all of the opportunity sites in the city, bringing those forward to look at what needs to happen to make them developable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know, Carla, that you have to go because you have another meeting. So I wanted to thank you for being here. And Mayor Heading, thank you for being here. And if there's any other follow-up questions specific to Morro Bay, I will be sure to pass them along to you. So thanks so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then going back to that same question about housing capacity, we will go to the supervisor candidates and start with Bruce Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Jocelyn. So what Mayor Heading just described is exactly the approach that we need to take with the county in partnership with other jurisdictions like cities. You know, he gave you a huge vision for housing in Morro Bay that is very deeply constrained at this, not only just building the housing, but also providing the resources, the wastewater treatment, which obviously is, you know, exciting that it's near construction. But what he didn't mention was that project is also going to secure their water supply to support those housing. So that's really exactly the approach we need to take, and we need to do that at a regional level. You know, yesterday at our San Luis Obispo Council of Governments, a regional body, we talked about a housing infrastructure plan that's really taking what Mayor Heading had described for the city of Morro Bay and expanding that analysis to the whole of the county to find those places where it makes sense to put housing that could be affordable by design. And to that end, we also approved a study to decide exactly what kind of housing can be affordable by design. It's going to be smaller than your typical suburban home on a quarter-acre lot, but it's going to be close to jobs. It's got to be close to transportation options. And what we're working to do is incentivize cities in particular, and also to see this happen in urbanized parts of the unincorporated county, to really take this on and make our investments wisely so we can get it on. You know, there are some who grind on the old talking point that somehow government is responsible for the affordability problem in housing, and it's absolutely not true. It is by no means the only contributor. The fees that the county charges are less than 10% of the gap in affordability, which for a workforce house typically runs $250,000 to $350,000. The house is priced that much higher than what the working workforce family can afford. So taking that regional approach is going to be key. And let me just end by looking at the actual question that was put in the chat was about tiny homes, which are a specific kind of concept. We're talking not an ADU that's established in the backyard of an existing home, but really small houses, like 200 to 400 square feet, that might be located clustered together with potential other common areas, perhaps even kitchen facilities, laundry facilities, common room areas. But to be able to get those tiny homes established at a density that we can get the numbers up, and thus we can provide an entry for folks who might otherwise be homeless. The county has embraced this issue. We've got a request for proposals out to put about 20 tiny homes on a parcel of land that we have down off Kansas Avenue, which is as you head in Highway 1 to San Luis. I'm excited. We should have that proposal back in front of us and award a contract by the end of the year. And I'm looking forward next year to see an actual tiny home village come forth on county land. Quickest way to do it.
Thank you for that. And Bruce Jones, feel free to please address the capacity question and also the tiny homes. These are on wheels, different than ADU, to clarify. Thank you.
Yes, there's no doubt that we can be successful at building residents at lower cost. While I served on the Templeton Area Advisory Group, there was a project of low-cost rental units, Rolling Hills 3. This project was circulated in the Templeton community. We had our Templeton Area Advisory Group board well noticed. And when people saw the plans, there was no objections. It went through unanimously on the board for approval, and there was no community reaction. We can build low-cost housing that does not present a problem with opposition from neighboring properties. I do, however, believe that regional control that leads to superseding each community's ability to have their own zoning is overreaching. I believe that Morro Bay or San Luis Obispo City should be able to set their own zoning and not be overseen by a regional board. I believe in the unincorporated urban areas like Templeton or Cambria, we need to listen carefully to the advice of the advisory councils from those areas. And as a supervisor, I will not be inclined to want to reverse the recommendations of what each regional area wants. Thank you.
Bruce Jones, did you also want to answer that tiny homes question?
Oh, the tiny homes question. Yeah, I think that represents a really good possibility, and I'd like to see that succeed. I think it's a type of housing that is very affordable and very doable, and can actually be manufactured off-site at much lower cost and transported to the location. In the Midwest, where they build hundreds and hundreds of houses at a time in subdivisions, many developers use prefabrication, reducing the cost greatly. These tiny homes have exactly that ability, and we have to figure out ways to make housing affordable, and these tiny homes represents that.
Okay, well, thank you both for being here. We really appreciate that you're willing to serve and run for office. It's not an easy job. So we really do appreciate it. I put both of your campaign links in the chat for anyone here who would like more information about the District 2 candidates. You can check out and get more information on their website. I would encourage everyone to vote in November. And again, we are really grateful for all of you who attended, and to the candidates for being here. And we will we look forward to working with whomever is elected in November. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jocelyn. Appreciate
you.
being with you this afternoon.
Thank you.